Torvengi in the Village of Alp, written by Greg Howard. Copyright 2025, Greg Howard, all rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without written permission from the author, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical articles or reviews. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance of actual persons living or dead or actual events is purely coincidental. Cover design and chapter illustrations by Sam Howard. Edited by Greg Howard, Sam Howard, Gaia Divine. For inquiries, contact realmnews247@gmail.com. First edition, 2025. Printed in the United States of America. Acknowledgements. I would like to take this time to acknowledge a few people who helped make this book happen. First, my brother Sam, who is also the artist for Realm News. He is the person who made the outstanding book cover that you see and all of the chapter illustrations that are coming in the future illustrated version of Torvengi in the Village of Alp. He has breathed life into the characters by giving them a physical form. I could not ask for a better brother, nor an artist to help make this book come to life. Also, thank you for helping edit the book as well. Your literary insights helped me flesh this out. I love you, brother. I would also like to thank my partner, Gaia Divine, for all of her support and for taking time to edit the story. Your insights are always held with the highest regard, and I am blessed to have you in my life. Thank you for taking time to edit Torvengi in the Village of Alp, and I love you with all my heart and soul. Also, I would like to say thank you to my mom for the creativity that she instilled in my brother and I growing up. We would not be nearly as creative as we turned out without her. Love you always. Chapter 1. Torvengi.
"Hello, who goes there in the dead of the night?"
I yelled loudly from the trapdoor to the stranger who was standing down below on the small stone platform. I gave another mighty shout.
"I demand to know who goes there."
The wind was howling sharply and intensely. It is always windy on the summit, but this was in the midst of a perilous blizzard, and as soon as I yelled a word, the wind would snatch it in its frigid hands and whisk it off the mountain top into the night's abyss. I called once more,
"If you won't tell me your name from below, then climb the ladder and present yourself to me immediately, or suffer the consequence of trespassing on my lands."
The traveler must have heard me, because they put their hands hesitantly on the rung of the ladder and started to climb up towards the open trapdoor. He made it up to the patina hatch, and I grabbed the chilled hand, yanking him into the fortress. I shut the cold metal door as soon as the stranger was fully inside. I turned my body toward him, and I put my hand on the hilt attached to my waist, which housed, scream, my blade.
Dead of the night, and a month-long blizzard continuing outside, yet Fangtooth alerts me of someone below my keep. "Why are you below my keep?"
I said with a stern look and the iron partially drawn. The stranger, while attempting to pull down the red scarf to speak, collapsed from exhaustion right there on the cobblestone floor and did not move. Fangtooth went to the body to smell their condition. As I walked over to an oak chest and started to rummage through its belongings, I pulled out a potion and walked over to the collapsed stranger. I then pulled the cork out of the glass bottle and poured a couple of drops of a blue liquid on his tongue to revive him. He quickly awoke in a state of disarray and confusion. It took a second, but the stranger collected himself as he sat there on the floor, blinking his eyes and gathering his senses. At this point, I didn't see any harm in offering the stranger food and drink. He appeared to be quite weak and not a threat to me.
"I have some food. If you would like, I can prepare some. You can rest, eat, and then we shall talk,"
I said. The stranger accepted the bowl a beetroot soup, and the baked potato by giving me a nod. He sat silently on a wooden chair near the fireplace that was positioned in the corner of the keep. He ate the food ravishingly and nearly licked the bowl clean. I studied the stranger with cold, curious eyes as they consumed the soup and potato. The stranger was very distinguishable by his wardrobe, and I could tell that he was a wandering trader. One thing that puzzled me was his lack of llamas. Typically, a wanderer will have 2 llamas attached to leads. They help transport their wares and other supplies that they peddle to strangers. This wanderer did not have his llama companions alongside him, probably slain somewhere in the bloke's travels, I thought to myself, while keenly observing the strange man. Water droplets were falling upon the stone floor from the remaining snow covering his clothes. His face was red from windburn, and he had a scraggly beard that added to his fatigued appearance. His face was gaunt with deepened eye sockets and pronounced cheekbones. However, his emerald eyes made him look youthful, almost cheery. He had on a sun-dampened blue wool coat, adorned with sun-gold edges and madder red thread. His sleeves were the same super aqua blue until transitioning into cuffs. There, the indigo ran into a ring of gold which neighbored another band of crimson before exposing the worn, suntan hands. Below mid-chest and on either side of the jacket are 2 large pockets outlined with gold filament. One of those pockets had the open ends of 2 tanned rabbit skin gloves limply sticking halfway out. Attached to the coat is a llama fleece chulo with loose ear flaps, trimmed with the same illustrious gold and red hues as the coat. Under the coat was a simple, thin, moss-green tunic made of linen that he kept tucked into his trousers. Partitioning the tunic from the trousers and only seen when the coat was open is a belt buckle that is unlike any other that the Dark Lord has ever seen. The back plate was forged from a fine iron and hammered out to an oval shape. It had an intricate design of gold inlays. These fine gold lines formed beautiful, ornate images that weaved all throughout the face of the silvery iron. It looked like these patterns told a story, or perhaps stories. The inlays did not stop on the buckle. They transitioned from the metal buckle to the wool belt that wrapped around his waist, allowing the story or whatever tale to continue. Below the belt are olive green trousers. These trousers were put in the same pot of green dye that his tunic was boiled in. Astonishingly, though, this green color had managed to turn into 2 completely different shades over time. The tunic protected under the coat remained vibrant compared to the trousers, which were sullied from exposure, and the green over the years had become sun-faded. On his feet he had on tanned sheep leather slipper boots. The leather, old from the years, was visibly cracked in places from the lack of tallow and from the sheer wear of wandering the earth. I allowed him to finish the meal before I asked,
Do you have a name, good sir, or should I just refer to you as stranger,
wanderer,
or trespasser?
I said coldly with a steel gaze. The stranger abruptly put the empty wooden bowl down on the spruce table and made a shameful look. He precipitously got on his knees and clasped his hands together near his face and started to whimper. Excuse my rudeness, he said, his lips trembling in an attempt to find his words. You invited me into the warmth of your lovely home, gave me this wonderful meal, and I have the audacity to not even give you my name. I am ashamed, my lord. His head down, eyes transfixed on the floor. Forgive me lack of manner and respect for which I have shown so far. I have not eaten for several days, and the journey has been harrowing. I got thrown off course, and it's a long story. My name, good sir, is Torvengi. Torvengi the Wanderer. I hail from a land far, far north of here, from a land named Skellig, he said, shaking as he wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead. I replied back,
"No need to apologize. I only seek the truth. You see, I am more curious to learn about what happened to your companions and what brought you to my keep."
Torvengi hastily popped in the last bit of baked potato in his mouth and began to say with a mouth full, "My companions, as you call them, were slain in that wicked spruce forest that coats this mountain. The snow is deep in these parts, and my lovers were walking slowly, their hooves cold, when suddenly, from under a spruce in the shade, a group of strays shot them with arrows, tipped with a poison that caused them to move slowly, not able to run away. They tried to fight the wicked strays, but succumbed in battle from the volley of arrows that pierced their hides. I cried the whole way up this wicked mountain top, tears froze into my cheeks. You called them companions, good sir, but they were my family, my guardians, and my friends." Torvengi continued, "By the way, this mountain is not an easy feat to climb. I saw your lights flickering down below in the valley, right outside of that wicked spruce forest before we entered it. I was seeking a place of refuge for a few weeks before I traveled further south. I wanted to ask you directly if I could take refuge in your village for that duration, if you're so kind, my lord." I sat and studied for a moment the fatigued Torvengi. I felt a pang of pity for him, for I do realize how harsh the weather can be here, and I understand the loss of companions. Also, I must admit, it was nice to have someone other than Fangtooth in the keep during this blizzard.
Yes,
I said aloud, thinking.
"Yes, I shall give you safe harbor in a cabin down in the village of Alp tomorrow morning for the requested time. As a generous lord, you will be nourished and kept safe under the flag of Ombre-Dieu for the duration of your stay. The Ombre-Dieu flag that you undoubtedly witnessed as you crossed the breezeway bridge to my keep."
I said this with a tone of sternness. I wanted to make it clear that I was in control of this new land and the city of Alp that lay below. You never know about strangers, even if they appear kind. Wandering traders are well known for trading rare goods, but they are also known to trade gossip and information. You must be wary of what you say around them. Torvengi's face looked down and away from my eyes, hands clasped together, acknowledging that he was a guest to this land and kingdom. He replied excitedly and shakily, understanding that his literal fate was in the Dark Lord's hands. "Thank you, my lord. Your kindness brings me immense relief, and I feel like I can finally breathe for the first time in weeks. You, of all people, must surely comprehend the hardships I've endured. This land is indeed treacherous, but it is much safer from where I left. I am grateful for your understanding. May I ask what the Lord calls himself?" Without hesitation, I looked deep into his eyes and said,
"I am the champion of Charmois, the global gladiator, founder of Seed Town, the Messiah of Wallachia, the Savior. Some people refer to me as God. However, Admittedly, I am not, but you may call me the Dark Lord, ruler of the realm and king of Ombre-Dieu. What has happened to your homeland?
I replied with intense curiosity. Torvengi then regaled me with an intriguing tale of his kin and the vast land they called home. It seemed that Torvengi had emerged from a grand empire, not unlike Ombre-Dieu, renowned for its cultural sophistication and wealth. According to the Wanderer, a mysterious horde of zombies and an army of villagers gradually, yet relentlessly, conquered their kingdom, village by village. Their ultimate goal was to capture the city of Alma and execute the queen by submerging her in lava, a gruesome and painful demise that was successfully carried out. This was a horrifying tale, and if true, this would suggest that my kingdom was not the sole empire in the world. This was intriguing to me and yet horrifying. If a kingdom similar to Ombre-Dieu had fallen to this force, why wouldn't mine? I didn't want to think about that at this moment. I was too far from the homeland to make any strategic plans, and I was just content to have some company in this blizzard. Torvengi and I stayed up late that night. We told stories and lore to each other. I loved to hear his stories, for they were new to me. Typically, I am the one who is speaking of adventure and lore. But to hear tales from a new culture through the eyes of this wandering trader was simply marvelous, and I felt captivated by his tales. I broke out bottles of honey for us to drink and broke bread. The pale snow moon was in full blossom during this wintry night, and the fire was roaring inside. Fangtooth was sitting near the fire with us. I threw her a steak while I popped the cork on another honey bottle. I kicked my feet up next to the flames and sat leaning back against the wall. Torvengi chuckled with bottle in hand and asked me, "Please do tell me this thought, my lord. What compelled you to build something up on the splinter of a mountain? How did you not fall to your death on such a narrow peak? This is a threading needle of a mountain if I have ever seen one. So please, tell me about this town below and the Lord's Keep, as you have appropriately named it." The north wind blew through the snow-filled atmosphere before hammering its invisible fists upon the shutters of the keep. I took a sip of honey, a bite of bread, and then I told Torvengi the tale of how I came to this mountain top.